What'd you guys
Lance,
do?
you going to talk more this time?
Yeah.
We're back at that.
Hey, just if he does start talking, we just give him a
Okay,
break.
maybe the question is like, Rachel, are you going to talk less this time?
No, it'll be fine. We talked enough. All right. So let's pick back up here in...
Saul's being the best. He's the greatest.
We're 19.
1 Samuel 19. Through 24.
1 Samuel 19 through 24. It's on my cheat notes right here.
You have so many cheat notes.
I do. So again, like this one it is a weird. I know we talked about it before a little bit. I mean, it's just it's a lot of story, a lot more of like he said this, they said this. So I don't know. For me, it was kind of like quick just to read through it. I didn't stop a lot. I don't know why. Maybe I'm becoming less and less a fan of narrative stuff.
I think that there are opportunities in narrative to pick a moment and stop and put yourself there, try and figure out. Not just what's going on in the story, but what does this tell you about who God is?
Yeah.
What does this tell you about what God wants for his people? So I think there's an opportunity for that.
Yeah, but it's hard because all you're reading about is like either Saul's issues or David trying to find it. So it's like, I don't know.
I would say chapter 21 gives us an opportunity when we get there.
All right, we'll get there.
And even just as we keep going, though, because we're going to be in stories like this for a while. I mean, whenever we were reading epistles, letters in the New Testament, I know one thing we said was like, hey, just, try to read, even if we're doing less than that per week, try to read the whole thing. And then it'll help you as you read the smaller portions of it to really sort of glean out what's the point of this. So if you can just read through the whole week at the same time, just really fast, like you're saying, and then I think it helps, okay, what's the point of this small story within the story?
Yep. That's good. Small story within a story. So let's start with the first small story of Saul trying to really kill David.
Yep.
Tried to
pin him to the wall with a
spear.
Yeah.
And this is him like, he's in the thick of, he still has this spirit. He's still dealing with
the harmful spirit from the
Lord.
And he is very jealous, and he's trying to kill David because of his jealousy. And his son is faithful to David.
Yeah. And his son still at this point is kind of like this go-between, like trying to like figure it out because he also, I guess he's about to, well, he makes a covenant with him here pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But
he asks his dad, why are you trying to kill David? He really is sort of like, this in-between character who's faithful to the true king and who's questioning the one who's not faithful to Yahweh. So we can sort of like put ourselves there and say, why are you trying to kill him?
Yeah.
Choose the one that God is blessing and try to draw others to repentance.
Yeah. All right. So then we get to 20, where we have this story of Jonathan shooting arrows.
You have to, I'm surprised you skipped over.
Me too.
What?
Saul prophesying naked.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that seems like a Ted moment.
I definitely have a question mark.
Okay,
and I was like, what the heck was happening? But I didn't know if we wanted to, because ultimately it's like, clearly people were confused. I don't know what they mean by prophesied, but we see this order of like, oh, these people they prophesied, and then they also prophesied, and then they also prophesied. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It doesn't give us what that was. So yeah. I just assume, he's naked laying around doing that, and it's weird, but I didn't know that there would be an explicit answer for what you just gave him. Some
he's the one who asked the question. I'm excited.
Oh no, I don't have anything. I just am surprised.
Like that's a weird part of the story.
In all this, like we have to talk about.
I was so excited. I was like,
I'm trying to
move us along.
Yeah,
Ted wants to keep the conversation going.
I just don't know how much you guys want to talk about.
Already, Ted.
So this part where he stripped off all his clothes and prophesied before Samuel. Yeah.
So anytime we have a question like that, though, I do think, again, go to the song that Hannah sang and remember that that's the theme of everything we're reading. Those who think they're exalted, they're going to be humbled. Those who are humble are going to be exalted. Those who are faithful to Yahweh. And he's trying to kill Yahweh's chosen one. And so he sends all these people and they go before God's prophet and they prophesy and they're humbled. And he is naked and prophesying before God's prophet here. So whatever the details of what's happening, it is a moment of humility, of God saying, no, you are going to prophesy humbly before my chosen prophet.
Yeah.
You can't just come after those who are my servants and think that's going to work. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm just still surprised Rachel said naked.
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 Yeah, I think Ryan is a naked guy.
He is, yeah.
Sorry. Ryan
a
Layton
naked guy.
our Gizzard, when he says the word naked, he pronounces it naked.
Naked.
Maybe it's a Texas
We're
thing.
Texans,
It
yeah.
is a Texas thing.
Naked.
Can't.
Okay.
I can't help it.
Now, chapter 20.
Yeah. I mean, we can definitely stop later on here. There's some weird stuff at the end. But, here we see Jonathan trying to, again, mediate, like, find out, it's like, hey, dude, like, David, my dad's trying to get you, and I'm going to shoot some arrows. And
You have to come up with a plan.
yeah, we have to come up with a plan so I can warn you if he's like actually going to try and kill you, or
Well,
if
it's
he's just
that
saying
dangerous.
this.
I think that's important to remember because I think when we're reading, because remember reading a translation into English,
Yeah.
and it can be hard, it can be easy to sort of miss the emotion because it's not how we would speak, right? We would be saying things like naked. But they're in a really, really scary situation. He's the king, and he also hates David. And so they have to do this in a discreet way.
Yeah. And so, we get to things like in chapter 20, verse, let's say 17 here, and Jonathan made David swear again by his love for him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. And so these guys are super connected. I mean, they're like brothers in arms. They fought in battle together.
Brothers-in-law.
Brothers-in-law, that's right. David married Jonathan's sister. And I think, from what we see of Jonathan's character and his faithfulness, I mean, before David killed Goliath, Jonathan basically did kind of the same thing with his armor, with the kid when they went up and did all that. So I think he's a man after God's own heart, probably as well. And so maybe he's recognized clearly his dad doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And so.
I mean, there's clearly real affection.
Yeah.
Familial affection and brotherly affection, but they also they have this covenant loyalty to one another too, which is why they keep reminding each other of it. It's just like when God remembers his people. Hey, remember, reminding each other of their love for one another because they are entering into a covenant together.
So in light of that, let's talk a little bit about the end of chapter 20, which I think it's probably misinterpreted by a lot, but where we see after Jonathan realizes, okay, no, my dad really is going to kill him. I got to shoot the arrows far. The kid goes away. And then this is like them, like their last, or at least what seems like, like, hey, we're not going to see each other. You're going to have to go run and hide. And so they kind of fall on the ground. They kiss one another and weep, and they're crying. I don't know, that just doesn't seem when we read that today, that feels like,
Yeah.
I don't generally like when I don't know, even my own brothers, we're not generally kissing and crying, and at least the way I read that. So I don't know, maybe for some they could interpret this and think something else is afoot. I don't know. Do we have...
there are plenty of people who look to this story and say, definitely something else is afoot, without question. So therefore, God endorses homosexuality, and there just isn't the clear case for that, I don't think. And again, this is not a moment of romance. This isn't describing, a passionate getaway. This is a moment, like Rachel was saying a minute ago, of extreme emotion. You've just been told, if you're David, that the king really is out to kill you. It's not even in question anymore. And if and when he sees you, you're done. And these guys are seemingly best friends. So it makes sense that it's emotional.
Yeah. This is actually one of the last times they see each other, too. So they're in a covenant relationship. They love each other as friends. Like you said, like they fought in wars together, but they won't see each other very much.
You're like, sorry. No, I'm just curious. When we say a covenant relationship, what does that mean?
So
practically, like in this context?
So it even says like in 28, therefore deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. I mean, they have a loyal faithfulness to one another. That they've made an oath about.
Yeah.
Right. So it's different than just like, you're my friend. It's I am swearing loyalty to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about, like, is it like Forrest and Bubba, or like, sorry. I was just thinking of other like characters, storylines.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm having a hard time. I don't know why Forrest Gump came to mind.
We were sort of like joking about this before the podcast too, this whole scene, but I do think it's good for us to be uncomfortable with it and, remember that we're reading a different context. It's in a story with all, lots of things we don't really understand, a different culture, different time. But also when we really are a family of God who is brought into a covenant family together. It really, right? You don't have to, weep and kiss one another, but we should have this kind of emotion and faithfulness to one another.
Yeah.
Because we say that we're the family of God, because we really are. And this is what it looks like. I will sacrifice for you. I will die for you. Your well-being matters to me as much as my well-being, because Jonathan is in a dangerous place now because Saul was just as mad at him. So it's good to think through what this means. It's also good to learn from, I think.
Yeah. Well, clearly there's, historical, cultural contexts at play that don't necessarily translate to a modern day reader, at least when you're in your initial.
And I think anytime that we hear someone saying that you can take what we understand and force it back into that world, that should just make you cautious, whether it's here or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, we're worlds apart, and there's work to do to understand our world and that world.
And let Scripture speak for itself, and let it answer the questions that it's asking. That is what we teach in how to study the Bible. This passage is not about whether God condones homosexuality. It's just not.
Yeah.
And whenever you just pull that out, you can make it that way because it is like, what is going on there? But if you're reading this whole story with us, it's clearly not about that. It's about a king who's not faithful, who's trying to kill God's chosen one.
Yeah. And even if, I hesitate to say it, even if that's what we're going on, that doesn't mean God condones it any more than he condoned Jacob having 4 wives and 12 sons through 4 different women. That's never been God's plan. Yet he chose to work through what was happening in those people's lives.
So, all right, let's keep it going here.
Just one more thing about that. And I know I keep talking about Jonathan, just because I was thinking about this when I was reading through it. I mean, Saul says to Jonathan, as long as David's alive, like, you have no shot at the kingdom. Like, you and your family will not have a kingdom. And he's right. And Jonathan knows that, and he still chooses to rescue David. I mean, it is just this really beautiful story of him putting someone else and Yahweh's plans above his own.
I think Jonathan knew that way before this moment.
Yeah, but it's explicit.
It's explicit here, yeah.
Chapter 21.
Yep.
David and the Holy Bread.
So, because he escapes, leaves, he goes to...
He's on the run.
He's on the run to, how do you say it, Nob? I don't know.
I read Nob.
Nob. That's when I should re-listen to how they pronounce it.
Yeah, I do that anytime I need to.
Is that trustworthy? Like when we hear names pronounced?
Ted trusts no one.
Yeah, I'm one skeptical son of a gun. The names of even names how they pronounce it. Like if you're listening to a Bible app or something.
Yeah, you can listen to 3 different. You can listen to 3 different ones and get 3 different pronunciations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in some cases. But I mean, what I found is like the ESV voice that you can get on the regular Bible app is reliable.
Yeah.
In that, like, at least
you got to pick your poison. So just go with one, and then you can say it confidently. Like, well, I'm the ESV.
A lot of scholars would pronounce it that way at minimum.
Okay.
Yep.
A lot,
that's
meaning maybe more than some.
Yeah.
But maybe not half. Who knows? So he's up at this place where there's these priests. I don't know. This did get a little confusing, I guess. Like also with the Goliath sword, and I don't know.
Yeah. So Goliath's sword was kept there.
Why is he going? He wasn't going there to get it.
No, he's on the run, and so he goes where he can hide. And the priests have the
Find
bread.
sustenance.
The priests have the bread of the presence.
But they don't want to give it to him at first, right?
That's right, because it's not supposed to be consumed by anyone that is not clean and not a priest. It's set aside for the priests, and it's part of their worship. Think back to Exodus when we read about all of that in the tabernacle.
Yeah.
And David promises, like, listen, we're not ceremonially unclean. Like, we haven't broken any laws. We're starving. We need to eat. And so the priest gives it to him. And then later, Saul finds out that the priests did that, and he kills them.
They kills them all. Yeah.
Which should tell you by the end of this just how far apart Saul and David are in the way that their heart is after God. So the reason I think this is a place for us to sit in camp is because Jesus famously grabs this story from 1 Samuel to make a different point. And so I'm going to flip over to Mark chapter 2.
Oh, Mark.
This is in the New Testament.
He references this story.
So it says that I'm in Mark 2, verse 23. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. So I think we talked about this
With
even
Ruth.
recently.
Yeah.
Right, with Ruth,
Yeah.
because the travelers were allowed to grab heads of grain along the roadway, right? Okay. So they're doing this, but on the Sabbath. And the Pharisees were saying to him, "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And Jesus said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and was hungry, he and those who were with him? How he entered the house of God in the time of Abiathar, the high priest, and ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for any but priests to eat, and also gave it to those who were with him?" And Jesus said to them, the Pharisees, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." And so he's making a point about the way we understand rules and the way even the Pharisees were implementing rules around the Sabbath. And like, pull back, understand the heart of God. I think this fits with one of the themes of 1 Samuel. Like, God is after the heart. And think about the heart of God around the Sabbath, around rest. It is for your good. It's not something to have all of these rules around where people are in fear of breaking them. It's instead for their heart to be realigned with God and trust in him. Just like way back when David, who we all look up to as one of God's mighty men, broke a law by eating the bread of the presence. But the heart was God wants to provide for his people. That's one of the promises of God's covenant, is that his presence would be the ultimate provision.
And we talk about this in the practice of Sabbath pretty soon, but it's this choice between life and death. God is always inviting us into flourishing life with him. His rules are to give life. And David is choosing life over and over, and Saul is choosing death and rejecting God over and over.
That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah, so it's not meant for us to just say, well, we can push all the rules aside.
Yeah.
No, but it's about our heart.
Dude, I think it'd be awesome, and maybe I'm sure it's in the cheat notes, and I know if I look closer in my thing, I wish there was like some way to highlight, like, oh, this story you're reading, Jesus references this in the future.
It probably is in the cross references.
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
But dude, those are small when you're just reading it.
That's
you're
right.
not like, I mean, you can be oblivious to it, but
for sure.
I'd be like, I got to get something that like Jesus's words are in red,
right.
Like all the stories and things that he references could be maybe in like an orange. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
It's such a brilliant
really.
reference.
Yeah. And what's crazy too is even talking about the Sabbath. Like, man, it's an interesting that it was the Sabbath that he's talking about there in this.
He used this story
Yeah.
to make an example of the Sabbath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's keep it going. Saul kills all the priests for basically helping him out. And
even though they said, why would we think he was doing anything wrong?
Right.
Yeah.
He's appointed by you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's your son-in-law, and he's one of your top warriors.
Yep. And I'm sure, everybody's probably knows what he did as a boy. Like, he's pretty, probably not famous, but
he's a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a hero.
Why wouldn't they
That's
care
why
for him?
Saul doesn't like him.
Yeah.
But that's also why the priest should care for him, right? He's an instrument of Yahweh who is protecting them. This is also this juxtaposition between how David and Saul treat the priest.
Go ahead.
No.
was going to say, and even the people of Israel. So you see in the next chapter, David puts his own life on the line while he's on the run to protect the people of Israel against their enemy. All the while, Saul is consumed with chasing David down, his enemy, at the expense of the Israelites, who are not receiving the protection of the king that they should.
Yeah, so that's what I said. Let's get into that next chapter in 23 where, it's crazy that he's fearing his life, like how much he's on the run, but yet he hears about the peril that this city is in, and he's like, all right, let's go do this.
Yeah.
And probably full well knowing that, like, Saul's going to find out that he's
Where he
there
is.
and did that. To which Saul does and is like, super. He's in a city that's like, what does he say? Like kind of, like he can't escape the strongholds or something. I don't know. I forget what Saul says. But
And there's some close calls.
yeah.
And he's asking God the whole way.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to happen? What should I be doing? You know?
Yeah. But on the way with the close calls you're referencing is the fact that they're basically like on the same mountain, just on
around
different
sides of the mountain, yeah.
And he's about to get caught. It seems like Saul's going to catch him, but I guess he gets pulled back. Why is it that Saul leaves again?
Because he's told the city's being attacked.
Oh, okay.
And he has the job to do as the king. If he doesn't do his job, then the people will dethrone him.
Yeah. So he leaves. And then we get to kind of the end here where it's a weird scene.
In 24?
Yeah, just to think about like the practicality. I mean, it's like David's like, SEAL team member here, stealthily, like
Hiding in the cave.
well, right in the entrance, this guy comes to relieve himself, and I sneak up so close that I can like cut pieces of his garment off. It's like, maybe it was dark. Maybe Saul's old. I don't know. That just it does seem like a
I don't
scene
know.
that really seems
I live
crazy.
so far away from that. I have no idea what that would actually look like.
I mean, generally, most people are pretty aware of their surroundings, especially when they're relieving themselves. So it
Maybe his stomach was upset.
Yeah,
Maybe he was distracted.
that's
Maybe
true.
the cave had running water.
Yeah.
Man, this is like blowing my mind. All these what ifs. I didn't even know I could what if that.
Maybe his sword is way sharper than we're thinking too. I mean, there's
Did
all
it from a
sorts of-
distance, like
Maybe he threw his cloak down and went over there behind that
gosh.
rock. All
Yeah.
kinds of things could happen. But again, what's helpful about this exercise is there is a process in which when you stop and you consider all the possibilities, that you put yourself in the story in a new way.
Yeah.
And it personalizes it and helps you see that these are real people that real things happen to.
Yeah.
And the real Spirit of God was at work.
Yeah. And it's an opportunity for David, like, what's he going to do? Because all the outside forces that were influencing him were like, here he is.
Yep.
This is a gift. Like, get him.
Right. But David, because of his character, says, I won't harm the Lord's anointed.
Yeah.
I mean, I will give your enemy into your hand. You shall do with him as what seems good to you. And he says, I will not do this to the Lord's anointed. I mean, that is such a radical act of trust and humility right there.
So in 13, so I had a notation. It says, as the proverb of the ancient says, out of the wickedness comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. When he's, I guess this is after he's come out and said something to him, right? Mm-hmm. The proverbs of the ancients. What is that referring to?
What do your cheat notes say? I'm going to try and look. My gosh.
13. No, it doesn't say anything about proverbs of the ancients. This is talking more about the wickedness. Out of the wicked comes wickedness.
I don't have any cross references in my Bible there either.
So I just didn't know, like, culturally in that. I mean, clearly, do they have, like,
Lots of proverbs.
the first couple books of the Bible? But he's referencing. I mean, is that since it's not cross reference? Is that just a different piece of literary work that the church that Israel used?
Or could it just
Or
be
that they
common?
knew
Or common, like not a
'Cause
proverb,
that's what
like
proverbs
a saying.
are, just wisdom.
Wisdom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been from our Proverbs because that...
Correct. Came way later. Yeah. That's what I just
But
didn't know.
it was a common literary form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This pieces of wisdom,
But
and it could come straight.
But up
from
to this
Scripture.
point, in what we've read at least, we don't hear that a lot. That like, oh, there's these ancient proverbs that we use that influence our practice or influence our.
Yeah, but so much of the Mosaic law is common among other ancient cultures that Moses and or the Lord is reworking into God's system. And so there's a lot of what we read back in Exodus that they would have been familiar with, or people in other cultures around, like the Akkadians and the Egyptians, would have had similar ways of life. So I'm just saying that this isn't the only place.
Yeah.
And later in the New Testament, Paul is doing the same thing. He's grabbing cultural bits of wisdom and using their phrases to teach them the gospel of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, short, simple way to say wickedness comes from wickedness, which we have seen throughout the story.
Yeah.
I think also a helpful thing for me to see how it's all interconnected is to realize that at this point, when David's on the run, he's writing some of what become the Psalms. So a lot of the Psalms are attributed to David. So I have one queued up for us just the first part of Psalm 18. So this was written when he's on the run during this time. Okay? Listen to the heart of David in this. This is why I love the insight that it gives you into the way he thinks. I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. So I mean, think about it. He's legitimately on the run for his life, and he's calling out to God, like, you're the one I take refuge in. You're the one I trust. You're the one that will deliver me from my enemies. He has a confidence in God's deliverance because he seems to know the Lord.
That's a heart after God.
Yeah. I mean, verse 4, the cords of death encompassed me. The torrents of destruction assailed me. The cords of Sheol entangled me, and the snares of death confronted me. I mean, he's describing dark days. And in the very next sentence, in my distress, I call upon the Lord. For my God, I cried for help. That's the heart of David.
You can subscribe to receive additional resources to help you study the story of Scripture at clearcreekresources.org. We'll see you next week.